Okay, this is Ida Lamb, and Ida's going to have a birthday next month. July 27th. She'll be 106 years old.
How much?
106.
106. And you have some stories to tell me today about your son when he was 6 years old.
Yeah, he didn't want to perform. So he went back down in the audience and cried till I finally encouraged him to go up and do it with Ursula Galis.
Yes.
And he finally went up and kneeled with her as a little, they had a little,
Christmas.
what was that?
Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas time. So he finally did it, but it took a lot of courage to, he never liked to leave me. He would cry every time. But he finally got used to it.
Very good.
But when we traveled to California a lot, Leah would have to sit in the back seat because Roger would always sit up front with me on my lap.
Your husband Ray would take the Catholic priest hunting.
Yes,
Tell him.
yes, he would go hunting with him.
Father Crippen,
Father Crippen.
Monsignor.
Bonzer Casey, yeah, that was the one yeah.
They went hunting.
She knew a lot.
I liked Father Cribben.
Huh?
I liked Father Cribben.
Did you?
Yes. And he was in Merrill, but he would come back to Sacred Heart and fill in from time to time.
Who did you go to Europe with?
Father Crippen.
Crippen.
My son and daughter went to Sacred Heart.
Yes,
Okay.
both of them went to Sacred Heart.
How many
And I'd
years?
have to take them every morning. I'd pick up another John Runyon to go to. I would go every day and then every afternoon go and pick them up.
And one time,
What happened one time?
what happened when you went to pick me up and the sister was late?
Yes, yes, so I questioned her why she was so. And she said, "You don't know my problem and I don't know yours."
Do you know her name, the sister's name?
So I never asked her again.
Roger went until 6th grade,
Yeah,
and Leah went until 7th grade.
KU.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a lot to do with Sacred Heart.
What other things did you do with Sacred Heart?
Oh, just go pour for their tea. They would have a tea and then they'd ask me to sit there and pour. Oh, that was, yeah, I saw a lot of Sacred Heart.
Very good.
They were very good to my children, though. I don't know how.
First communions.
Yeah, got all dressed up. And I have pictures of you in your communion gown. And then we stood back.
Your grandson had First Communion at Sacred Heart.
Michael, yes,
Your grandson.
grandson.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you had some stories for us today. Okay, you're now going to meet Lorraine with one R, Degnan, D-E-G-N-A-N. Lorraine is going to have a birthday soon on July 1st. She will be 100 years old. And she has some good stories to tell about Sacred Heart School.
I couldn't, I was a widow at 52, and I couldn't get a job because I was a liability at the time. and so, what's his name? The janitor, second janitor, Paul, yeah, Paul Whitman was a janitor number 2. And he said to it that I got to talk to, like I say, I was a liability. So Paul says, I'm going to take you to Sister Monica because she's going to like what you have to produce. And so I got up and talked to Sister Monica, and she put me to work in a hurry. So I cleaned out the files and straightened them up and did all the things that the girls wanted me to do. And I loved every minute of it. I had various jobs pushed on me, and I loved every one of them. The only one that was hard for me is when I got tricked to be on the phone when I didn't know the answer. Otherwise, I liked all the jobs they gave me to do. And the little kids got sent in there, and when they seen that old lady sitting there, they got scared to death of me, because I made them mind. The girls had sometimes let them slip by, but no slipping by with me. Whatever the teacher told me to do to that kid, I did. And they looked at me like I was an ogre. But it was all fun, and I enjoyed. I always said Sister Monica's made my life because it was so much fun. It was something I had never done before, and it was all new and different, mucking in the midst of children. But I loved every minute of it.
Did you have to answer the phone? Did you have to answer the phone?
Well, once in a while when the girls would go to the coffee room and get a little bit delayed, and I got stuck with the phone, and I didn't know the answer. And that put me in a kind of a pickle. But they loved me because I did the best I could. Yep, Jolene was the first boss. I worked with Jolene's mama, Ole. She was a black volunteer just like me, Ole, and I liked her. She was good. She was nice. But I worked mainly with Charlotte because Jolene unfortunately had bad health problems that delayed her work years at all. And Charlotte was good. They were all good to me. And I loved every bit of it. It was just, I had never worked with little preschoolers before, and that was, sometimes they looked like they were just hatched. It was all fun. I enjoyed every bit of it because if somebody on the other end didn't want my services and I was such a big liability, I wasn't a liability where I was. And I enjoyed every moment of it.
Thank you, Lorraine. We have Lloyd and Loretta Kinnan, who have been parishioners for a long time, and they've got a lot of good stories, including how they met in Iowa.
We moved here 50 years ago, and we felt right away that Sacred Heart was our home. And we had 7 children, and we took up a lot of space in the church. The youngest was 4 and the oldest was 14. And then they were all enrolled in the catechism classes. And
I can't brag too much about what I did down there because I was mostly home with the kids or going to their concerts or whatever. And one year I did help one of the nuns with her catechism group, but it was short-lived. I'm no teacher. And reason I felt so at home at Sacred Heart, we had Sacred Heart back in Iowa, and I was baptized there, made my first communion and confirmation, and went to high school and was married at Sacred Heart. So that's about it, I think, for me. So maybe Lloyd can give you some stories.
Well, I went to Fort Dodge High back in Iowa, and Retta went to Sacred Heart High School. And I worked at a ballroom where we had all the name bands, the Dorseys and the Krupas and Woody Herman and all of them in there. And we met at the dance, I think, in our junior year. And I graduated in the spring at Fort Dodge High, and she graduated in the spring at Sacred High School, and we got married in September in the fall at Sacred Heart Church. And we've been married ever since. Sometimes we don't get along, sometimes we do. I'm so ornery sometimes. Then I moved out here. Not too many years after I moved out here, I joined the choir. I don't know who the choir director was at that time, but me and up the street, what's his name?
Lloyd?
Louis Holzgame. We joined the same week in that choir. And it's back probably somewhere between 35 and 40 years ago. And I've been counting money at the Sacred Heart Church collection on Monday mornings for quite a few years now. I don't know just how many years. It's been a long time. And I belong to the Knights of Columbus. I was a faithful navigator there for 2 years. I was treasurer at the Knights of Columbus for at least 25 years. And I'm a gold card holder at the Knights of Columbus. I don't pay dues anymore. So I've been there quite a while.
Mention Father Roga.
What?
Mention Father Roga.
Father Roga? And I think Father Roga is great. Me and him get along great. And sometimes I pick up his breakfast. Sometimes another person at our breakfast picks up his breakfast. We make sure he don't have to pay for his breakfast when we go down the grill or wherever, Waffle Hut. I don't know, I stay active. I've worked all my life, I'm still working 5 days a week. And I can't stand to sit around much anymore.
Am I still on there? Mm-hmm. When we first moved here, there were 5 priests in the rectory. And now we only have 1. And it's amazing what Father Roga does. Of course, we have our volunteers down there, which is most helpful to him, I'm sure. But he's just great. If you're sick or in the hospital, he will come and see you and give you his blessing.
Oh, we forgot something. Tell me about the pew.
The pew? Well, when we first came here, we had the 7 kids, and we sat toward the back. It was the next pew next to the back. And I'm still sitting in that pew. We had all those kids, and so now we have friends back there. So that's about it on the pew.
That's good. We
I-
always wondered.
And I look over from the choir loft every Sunday morning and see if she's got a full house in that pew.
Usually she does.
Yeah.
Okay. Next is Mary Beard. And Mary Beard was a teacher at Sacred Heart Academy right up until the end
Of the high school.
of the high school, which is a couple years before the end of the school itself. And she has lots of stories about people and places and things, and there she is.
Hi, everybody. There are a whole lot of stories I can't tell, as the last students at the high school would remember. But great place, great people, great kids, great faculty. I'm sure many of you who will be seeing this remember Sister Marie Monica. And I'm going to give Marty some things. Sister died 2 weeks ago. And so keep her in your prayers. She was absolutely on top of life until the day she died. And she had just talked to the CEO of the hospital. She was volunteering up in Pendleton. That very day, she walked in at 8 o'clock, checked her email, visited patients, got the altar ready for Mass, had a half-hour visit with the CEO of the hospital, went home and died. So the Lord said she was finished, she had done her work. But many of you will remember her, so please do keep her in prayer. And her family, she has 3 sisters left. And of course, all of the other sisters miss her terribly. She was a great part of our life. And those of you who haven't known me in the in-between years, I was Sister Mary then. I'm now Mrs. Beard. God has strange ways about his plans for us in our lives. But back to the academy, which we didn't call an academy then. They used to call it that, but we just said Sacred Heart High School. Remember Mr. Klosterman and Joylene Beard and Charlotte Flores and Sylvia and Larry Halsey and Mr. Brown. You remember Nancy Manley and the plays. I suspect you remember lots of those people, and if I kept thinking, I'd come up with the rest. But not many of them. Candy Anderson is still in town, one of the few. So otherwise, not many of us around, but I'm sure many of us remember you well. And kids, I won't even start naming, but you might remember service projects, folding, stuffing envelopes for the development office. My religion class always had to do service projects. And you also made May baskets and put them out on the neighbors' porch steps because sometimes the neighbors had other experiences of us. And so we wanted to let them know that we're really good people after all. And cleaning up downtown, and at least the last year, I can't remember the years. I'm not sure how long we did it, but your community service project where you went out to different places in town, daycare centers and food banks and things like that, and actually spent time in service. Interesting that now all of the high schools in town all have a senior project that all of their kids have to do in order to graduate. So see, you were just pioneers. And not all of you loved it, but you did it anyway and made it through. Last graduation, so sorry to see that happen, but you made it a memorable event. And of the, forgive me, 12 that graduated, I think 8 of you, or maybe of the 20 who graduated, 12 of you had been together since first grade. So, you did make it memorable, to be sure. And the canned food drives and the prepare run. Eddie Gordon, I still apologize to you. I told you if you didn't put your drawing in, I was gonna, and I did, and I won the $10, and I can't remember what happened to it. But anyway, we had a prepare run because you said it. But after that, just congratulations to all of you who have been a part of the Sacred Heart history. We still have a group of women who meet once a month to pray, companions of the Sisters of St. Francis, who sustain the presence of the Franciscan sisters here in town. And if anybody's interested, please feel welcome. Marty can get you in touch with me, or Julie at the parish office, Father Roga, can get you in touch with me. I'd love to share with you about that. And after that, have a great celebration. Goodbye. I probably talked more than 5 minutes, and I told her I'd never even get past a minute.
Thank you very much. We now have the first of the second group of Beard sisters, and they're going to tell us some stories about how Mom got how many kids?
5.
5 kids through Sacred Heart School from first grade all the way to high school graduation.
Yep.
And Joyce is going to tell us all about the birth of choir and the Beard sisters. So we'll start with you, big sister.
Okay, I just remember Mom wanted us to have a good Catholic education, so we couldn't afford the tuition. So Mother helped out in the kitchen with Sister Ramona when she could. She did yard duty. She washed and cared for all the football uniforms, all the basketball uniforms, and anything else that they could find to do. And we were required in the summer, part of our vacation, we had to go down to the school, clean all the desks and wash them, recover all the books because you didn't buy books at the time, you had to put covers on them. And we did that every summer. And that was way up until I believe I started high school. Then I picked huckleberries to put me through school. So that's how we got through Sacred Heart.
Well, we had to sing in the choir every Sunday. We sat downstairs in classes, I believe it was 1 through 7 or 8. And every Sunday morning, that was part of our grade, we had to be there to sing. When we got in the higher classes, then we were allowed to sing in the choir loft. And that was part of our grade through school. We sang up there every Sunday, Christmas, any holiday of obligation.
Right, yeah.
We had to sing when they had a benediction or adoration. We were there to sing. And as part of our grade, there was no choice. And so because of that, then music is a very important part of my life and who I am, I think. But Sister Cecilia Francis was our music teacher forever, I think. She's the only one I remember.
Yeah.
And she played the organ, she conducted, she did everything. And she was a blessing in our lives, really. So
When did you start singing solos?
not until after I was married. I never sang solos in school because I wasn't good enough. There was other girls that had wonderful voices and stuff, so I never sang solos in school. It wasn't until somebody asked me to sing at a wedding after I had been married many years. That was Dolores' sister, Kelly.
Okay, so tell me about the Beard family going to school every day. How did that work out?
Well, Mom got us up. We went to Mass every morning. That was a requirement. And I remember a couple of times getting down in a wrinkled uniform and Sister sent me back home for that little infraction of the rules. But we all went. We went from first grade to right through graduation. But I don't know, it was just routine. Sometimes we had breakfast, sometimes we didn't. And if we didn't get breakfast, then Sister Ramona, bless her little pea-picking heart, took us down to the kitchen at the school and gave us something to eat, because we didn't always have the money to eat. I mean, I'm not looking for pity. That's just the way it was, you know?
And
I imagine.
we didn't know we didn't have anything. We thought we had everything.
Yeah.
Because we did everything as a family, you know.
And the boys all participated in sports. We played basketball. It was weird when the girls played basketball because you played half court at that time.
Yeah.
I wasn't any good at it anyway. They were full court or half court, so. And volleyball, I was no good at that either. But those things weren't offered till later in the school because if you didn't have a nun there to teach a particular subject or class, it wasn't offered. So I might want to take biology one year. Well, too bad there wasn't a teacher that taught biology.
Yeah.
So I had to take something else whether I wanted to or not, because requirements. So.
And we never came on the school grounds in pants, slacks. Even on the weekends, any other time, you never, ever came to, I tried it one time, I snuck into the school one time on the weekend in a pair of jeans or something, and I got caught, and boy, did I get in trouble. But it just wasn't allowed, you know. You wore a dress, you wore a skirt, but you did not come in slacks or anything else like that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm done
What years
talking.
did you finish school? What year did you
I
graduate?
graduated in 1957.
And and I graduated in 1960.
Did your kids go to Sacred Hearts Academy School?
My son went there until he was a senior in high school. That's when they closed the school. And he had to transfer to Mazama. That was a bummer. So,
And when I moved back here, 3 of ours went there. My son needed to have special ed. Sacred Heart didn't offer any special ed classes. So when he got in high school, he had to go to KU. That was,
well, my youngest went here. Billy went here when Flores was here. And he went here, I guess, till we moved, or back and forth, because we moved a lot. But
Choir career.
well, I directed the choir for 13 years, although I basically said I didn't know what I was doing but having fun. I don't read music, I don't play any instrument. And it happened, I was asked by Father Hayes when we were coming back from a basketball game on a Reuter bus, because we had been singing songs, he asked me if I would take over directing the choir until they found someone else. Well, I did it for 13 years, and I kept telling Father, you find somebody who wants to do it, knows what they're doing, and then that's when Bob Bona took it over. But I stayed singing in the choir because I really enjoyed it a lot.
And you sang the national anthem at many OIT basketball games.
I did. I got to sing the national anthem, and I've sang in Hawaii for my daughter's wedding, and in Washington for my son's wedding, and for a few relatives' funerals in Springfield and Eugene and around there. Music's a good part of who I am.
Okay, we are going to now have listen to Father Rogation Ruasa, talk about his experience with Sacred Heart Parish.
Well, I was appointed by Bishop Vasha to be the pastor of this parish back in 2004. And I started my ministry over here in June. I was installed officially in July 1st with Father Dreisbach, who was the dean of the time, as he was retiring from Sacred Heart Parish. My first experience is how the parish was loving, how the parish also was inviting, and although they had to struggle with the difficulty of receiving a brand new person within the United States, that I had a big accent, and it was their first time to have a change for many, many years. Father Dreisbach was privileged and blessed to serve over here for over 18 years, and so we thank God for that. My first experience also was to be part of the Sacred Heart community as it was celebrating a history of the foundation of the Sacred Heart Academy School that was celebrated in 2005. With that preparation and gathering the team and collecting the information in order to celebrate well that anniversary, and because many people were going to come in town, it was a very, very good experience. The other that I am proud also to be part of is that within the same year, 2000 and after a few years in 2009, I celebrated my own anniversary, 25th years in the ordination of the priesthood, and the community really rallied around me and did a very grand celebration here, of which I was very proud of, and that makes me feel that now I don't just say I am a visitor, but I'm a member of Sacred Heart Parish. I felt within the parish, its family, and that has been keeping on with me for these years. I have been inspired, and really I feel blessed to be part of Sacred Heart Parish. Sacred Heart Parish is a very lively parish and has a stable financial foundation, has its own very stable contribution into the society, probably because of the background of having a school, although now the school has been closed. But Sacred Heart it's one of the churches here around the area that is, so to say, called vibrant and a stable parish. Another thing I may want to say about Sacred Heart Church is that it has cooperative people, families that have been here for a long time that would like to always be involved in things and doing things and making the church look better. And they are people that always make a big priority for their parish, like the Novak family or the Doveris, and they think that the church has been a family church, and indeed it is. That's how we need to make ourselves within the faith. The church we belong to becomes our own family that unites us together. And with those and many others that I don't need to mention here, makes the church firmly rooted in its foundations, and also the church has that kind of dependency on the people who love it, on the people who care about it. So I really appreciate having the privilege of serving in this parish. We have, within these years of my service over here, yes indeed we face tragedies and people die and people lose members of their families, but we always rally together, we always hold together and support each other. I remember even when the scandals were terrifying the community, as we hear that people that were beloved in the leadership of the church have either abandoned their ministry or betrayed the trust they were given. It really pains the people, and for some people that are weak in conscience, it rips them apart, and it gets them to have a temptation to hold back. But again, Sacred Heart community, being strong as it is, we have always endured, and we thank God for that gift. And we continue to pray that this church may continue to focus on its mission, the mission of the church as in general. It is to call upon the many people of God into the faith, and those who have been baptized to hold them in and to continue nourishing them and challenge them to continue growing in their faith. That is the focus of Sacred Heart. In our diversity, and we find ourselves also very blessed. We have two communities. The Hispanic community, which is growing, has been in continual growth since I've been here, is also part and parcel of the community. And we work together in diversity, but we have lots of uniting factors. And we feel also blessed with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
I
Father.
appreciate it.
Introducing Ann and John Novak, who will tell their stories. Okay.
Hi, well, I have belonged to Sacred Heart Parish all my life. I was baptized here, I made my first communion here, I was confirmed here, and I was married here, and our children were baptized here. So I went to Sacred Heart School starting in the 3rd grade and went all the way through 12. Got a wonderful education in the beginning. It was called Sacred Heart Academy, and actually all the way through my 12 years it was called Sacred Heart Academy. One interesting thing that came along, it was, I think I was in the 4th grade. Now, some of you may or may not know, the sisters ran a boarding school for some of the kids who came from out of town. A lot of them would board during the week and then go back home on the weekends if they lived close enough. Well, my folks had to leave town for a week when I was in the 4th grade, and I got to board there, which was to me kind of spooky at first, but it turned out to be a great experience. One thing I remember about school which is kind of a funny little thing. The school had a school store where you could buy some supplies and you could buy all kinds of little penny candy and stuff. And that was a big deal. By the time we got to 8th grade, we were feeling pretty good. We had a sister, her name was Sister Katona, who had been on stage in New York. She was also an English teacher, knew a lot about literature and a lot about dance. That was her forte. So she took all of us, pulled up her skirts, her beads on the side rattled, and with her veil flying, she taught all of us, even the boys, how to dance, how to waltz, how to twirl people around. It was really fun. We went to school with wonderful, wonderful people who we have enjoyed all of our life, that's for sure. So, as far as church goes, one of the things that really stands out to me is how people from the parish used to work to support the school. They had spaghetti feeds and all kinds of events going on to raise money to actually build a new grade school and then eventually a new high school that turned out to have a state-of-the-art lab in it. And it was a real cooperative effort. And one of the big benefits was that people really got to know each other. Families were close, not only in school, but also in the church community. We had lots of priests who came. All of them were Irish, mostly, and very, very hard to understand sometimes. Eventually we got used to them and they became friends, and we had wonderful relationships. So as far as the way things now, there is no school now. The nuns all went on to other things, and it was too expensive to hire lay teachers to run the school. And eventually it just had to close, and that's a sad thing. So that's my memories, and my other thought here is how wonderfully our Sacred Heart Church has always been taken care of. It is absolutely a jewel, and people, all the priests and the councils have just been such great people in watching out for the care of the church. And Father Roga has been especially good about that and very attentive, as well as Father enjoys lots of social activities, and that has made us a stronger parish. That's what I have to say.
Well, and I'm the other half of this couple, John Novak, and my wife really hasn't left much for me to talk about. But I came into Sacred Heart Parish in 1947 when our family moved here from Portland. I was in the first grade at St. Agatha's School in Portland and then transferred here. At that time, my father was able to talk to the principal, and because there was closed registration, all the grades were total full to capacity, but he sweet-talked her, being of the same nationality, and she allowed 3 Novak kids to enter Sacred Heart. And since then, all 8 of the Novak kids have gone through Sacred Heart from 1 through 12 and got fabulous education. The Sisters of St. Francis have been fantastic, and in fact, my one sister, Patricia, is now a sister of the Order of St. Francis, and she is in Spokane, Washington. And we just found out that Sister Monica, who was the last principal at Sacred Heart School, fabulous woman, a wonderful woman, has just passed away in Pendleton, and she had quite a history here in Sacred Heart. So anyway, I, of course, made my first communion here and received all the sacraments as well as my wife. I went through Sacred Heart from the first grade. She came about the third or fourth grade. We had just a fantastic class all the way through. Sacred Heart was always a very driven school and college oriented, and they gave a tremendous education. And like my wife said about Sister Cortona, she took me and she taught me. She says, my 8th graders are going to go into high school and know how to dance. And she did. But again, most of the priests that came here were from Ireland. We had a little trouble understanding it, but Father Cribben, who many people knew and loved in this parish, he came here, and his first assignment in the United States was Sacred Heart. And they therefore put him right into Sacred Heart Academy, and he taught high school religion. And I hate to say it, but we were freshmen, and we were a little bit hard on him. But if you know Father Cribben, he was able to handle himself. So we just really had a great time. And recently, we went to Ireland with Father Cribben on one of his Irish trips, which we were very fortunate to be able to do. But one of the things I remember was Monsignor Casey. It was Father Casey way back when, and then became a Monsignor. And he was here for many, many years, but he did a tremendous job of raising money and looking out for Sacred Heart. And it's been followed through the years, and it's still an absolutely fabulous church and has been well cared for and taken care of. But Father always had his bazaars and his fundraisers, and like my wife indicated, that was wonderful for Sacred Heart. At Sacred Heart School,
Choir.
I happened to be in a choir, and then I was in the Sacred Heart Church Choir, and was in the choir for about 15 years, and until my children came along, and then I went to Mass, and we always went to Mass as a family, and I felt that was really important. But we always had a fabulous choir, and some wonderful, wonderful times, and at one time we had over 30 people that were in the choir, and we had some wonderful choir directors and some great organists along the line. One little tale I have to talk about was we had this our organist was a professional that moved here from the LA area, and he was involved in a lot of the Hollywood productions and everything. And he came up here and lived here for a while, and he also wrote music. Well, we had several of our masses recorded on the radio for midnight mass, and they would broadcast it live from Sacred Heart Church. But one time the Air Force had a special celebration out there, and they asked if the Sacred Heart Choir would come and do a presentation for them. And so the organist's name was Eddie Butler, and he composed a song, a special song just for the Sacred Heart Choir to sing to the Air Force people. And it was about the voodoos. My voodoo flies high like a bird in the sky. My heart rides on wings made of steel. Well, anyway, he had the little tune. Da, 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 da. Anyway, he wrote the song, and we went out there and we presented a lot of songs, but we sang this one particular one that was for the Air Force, and it went over quite well. Well, the next Christmas at midnight mass, as we were going to communion, Eddie Butler was up there playing all the flourishes on the organ and everything, and all of a sudden he snuck in this little tune of the song he wrote and played that through the church, and everyone, of course, in the choir going to communion got a little snicker on their face. But we had some wonderful parties and wonderful times and great people, and we still have a tradition now with our new organ. It's just been a great addition to the church. The church was originally built for a pipe organ, but then things got really tough, and I think the Depression, and they never did finish it. And luckily, due to a wonderful gift to Sacred Heart Parish, they were able to do it, and our present organist does a fabulous job, and we carry on the tradition of music at Sacred Heart Parish, so it's really great. So anyway, Father Casey was a builder, And I was an altar boy when they opened the grade school, which I'm in right now. And then later we were in high school together when we opened the new part, the high school edition. And it, like my wife said, it was state of the art. So a proud history of Sacred Heart, both the school and the parish. And we got a great education, and it's very unfortunate that we don't have the school anymore. But anyway.
Thank you. That was fabulous.
Well,
This is Dee Down, graduate of Sacred Heart Academy, 1957.
My family, there were 5 of us, 3 boys, 2 girls, went to Sacred Heart. There are many things that I love about Sacred Heart. I especially love the nuns. They were the very best teachers we ever had. We learned from the Baltimore Catechism. And there are many things that we did that were beautiful. All the processions we had with different feast days. With the Blessed Mother we did crowning of the Blessed Mother, and we always voted in the gal who was chosen out of the class to crown the Blessed Mother. I loved all those. We went to Mass at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we just learned to love the Lord. We learned to love our faith. Sacred Heart was one of the best schools in the whole state. We had the highest grades. We were very, very proud of being a member of Sacred Heart students. And it was very important to us that nobody ruin our good standing. So sometimes we ended up getting students who needed help, but we students at Sacred Heart told them we will either do it our way or the highway, because we did not want our good name ruined. Other than that, we had beautiful plays that the sisters put on, that they did the Birth of Christ, and my one brother played St. Joseph at the time, and it was a beautiful play. It's beautiful. We were a very active church. And when you could go into Sacred Heart Church and there was no place to sit, it used to be standing only, for many of the things that happened, it was a thrill. And it came because of those beautiful nuns we had. They loved the Lord, they worked hard, they tried to help us kids, and many of the nuns fed a lot of the children that were hungry. There was hard times back then. And one of my most rewarding times was when Father Patrick Peyton came to Klamath Falls. And when he did, we took our statue of the Blessed Mother out to Kiger Stadium, and they filled the stadium and had the rosary set out there. It was an awesome experience, which I will never forget. And so I followed Patrick Peyton all the way through until his death. And he was one of the greatest men for helping. He brought almost 28 million people to the rosary. And what an awesome, awesome time. The 50s were awesome times because there were a lot of shows and things about Catholics. And we were proud and we were happy, and it was a beautiful time. And we had great basketball teams, football teams. Kids, we were really close, real close unit.
What was Father Peyton's famous saying?
Oh, Father Patrick Peyton's famous saying was, the family that prays together stays together. And many people use that now. He was a wonderful, wonderful man. Sacred Heart School helped bring this parish and helped them make the parish as awesome and wonderful as it was, and it was a beautiful time.
Who was Sister Emma?
Sister Emma was a friend of ours that met my sister when she was younger and taught my sister at Sacred Heart, and we adopted her. Her parents lived in California, and when her mother was very ill, she asked if we would always keep her in our family, and we said, but she is family. So she's coming in the next month to see me, so yeah, lovely, lovely teacher, beautiful. She had a beautiful voice, had a lot of music. She played a lot of music. She was talented, awesome, awesome lady. So I was very happy to go to Sacred Heart and to graduate from there, and it was awesome. It was an awesome time.
We now have our treasures. And the treasures are Socorro and Manuel Ibarra. And they both have been at Sacred Heart Parish for many, many years doing all sorts of wonderful things. And Socorro is going to tell us her story.
So I became a volunteer in 1994. That was when Father Dreisbach and Deacon Ken were here. Deacon Ken was the one who taught me everything that I knew about the church, because I became the volunteer from that time, from 1994 to 2004. Then Father Roga came along. Father Roga invited me to lunch, and little that I knew about Father Roga, he said, I would like for you to come and work for me. So I said yes, because I was in a hurry. So I didn't know what I was getting into. Father Roga didn't have a duty description for me. He just told me I was going to be a director of the Hispanic ministry. What was that involved? At that time, I didn't know, but I learned really quick. I had to do, he expected for me to do marriage preparations, quinceañera preparation, rehearsal for both of them. I had to oversee 25 volunteer workers. I did the First Communion confirmation classes in Spanish. Of course, I had volunteers by then, so they took over, but I had to oversee that preparation for the religious education. I also did the fundraisers for whatever fundraisers the Hispanic communities had, plan it and oversee that too. What else did I do? I was in charge of doing the celebrations too or preparation for the celebrations for Easter or Holy Week, I should say. My day was Holy Thursday. I was in charge of Holy Thursday. I also had to do a lot of the flyers, a lot of the have everything ready for Father for Mass or any special celebrations that he had. I was in charge of the Hispanic committee. Attended the Hispanic committee because I was expected to attend that too. You name it. I think I mentioned just about everything. Oh no, I had to get ready. I had to be Father's acolyte during that time because Father didn't have an acolyte. So I was expected to set up for Mass every Sunday. On Christmas Eve, I was expected to be there too. And also requested records from Mexico and other countries like birth certificates, marriage, whatever I needed to be, any documents they needed to be requested. I requested it from different countries. Mexico and Guatemala were my main thing, Honduras, and also forgot something else. I think I have everything that I had done for the, Parish Council. I was expected to attend Parish Council every month and also the Sacred Committee Council every month. The celebration for Our Lady of Guadalupe, I had to plan all of that, find volunteers, request, and set up the whole program for that part of our celebration in our church. I tried to build the two communities together, and I tried to think about having the two communities being bilingual, being together. And so that was our biggest celebration that we did. It was that, and Holy Thursday was the ones, because I always wanted to include the two communities and have the two communities participate together. And those was the two main events that I did for the church. Along with confirmation workshops, first communion workshops, I had to do them. And one time I remember accompanying 30 kids to Pavio for a retreat, and that was our confirmation class. So I did that, and then my other partner, she had an emergency, so I was set up to do rehearsal and everything for 30 kids. You name it, I did it. And I don't know what more I can tell you. I love the job. After I retired 3 years ago from doing double duty, I started volunteering. I do very little. I still do letter and Eucharist minister, but I had done a few marriage preps after I had retired. Just a few, and quinceañera classes.
Also, during the week, I come with her to help her to do it, like to help her to do marriage preps and quinceañera preps too, because, she needs my help, and so I said, no, well, and the end of it, I end up coming to help her though, so in those days. And then I got all involved. I got involved in music, and I started, working for the church and doing things like that. That's no, not playing, but I was singing in the choir, and until now. That's it. I didn't get that much, so.
And the secrets about the roses?
Oh, the secrets about the roses. Well, I always, I guess what the people who would teach me how to do those things, I guess he did a good job, because it seems to me that those roses, they're doing really, really good. But I always say this, God, the Lord, is the one who's taking care of them, and He always makes sure those roses are, doing good. So that's my secret.
Thank you very much. That was
You're welcome.
terrific.
Thank you.